Hello Steelers, and welcome to this game of Chain of Command, a special game of Chain of Command. It's actually going to be a game of Chain of Command Great War, which I have been writing for the last, God, feels like forever at this point. But I've just basically, I thought I'll go back to it, play test it again, hopefully show you some of the mechanics in this, or some of the ideas I'm playing with at the moment. So I'm just using this. I decided that I wanted to go back to the First World War. I've not done any First World War stuff for a little while. It's been a few months, and I thought let's try something out on camera. And I was thinking about what kind of scenarios I wanted to play, and I came back to the Stout Hearts and Iron Troopers scenario book. This is actually originally for Through the Mud and the Blood, which, as you are probably aware, is one of my favourite games as well. But you can convert some of these scenarios in here to Chain of Command quite easily. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm taking scenario 17. It says the man with the flak said everyone attack. This is a set during the German Kaiserschlacht from 1918, close to the town of Albert. The Germans were pushing through, some marine units were pushing through, and there was a chap called Lieutenant Fritz Nagel who was in charge of a 70mm anti-aircraft gun on the day of this attack. He had been tasked by the local marine commander to help them basically take out a British machine gun post that was held up in a lockkeeper's house, a cottage, just by, I think, by the Albert Canal. So that's basically what the game is about. The Germans are going to have to try to knock out this machine gun post and then also capture a couple of buildings at this end of the table as well, including a factory and a couple of cottages as well. If they can do that, they win the game. Basically it's an attack on a position, or to clear out the British. And as I say, I wanted to take this particular scenario because it's quite an interesting one, and I bought a 15mm 3D printed 70mm anti-aircraft gun. It was designed by one of the guys in the Through the Mud and the Blood Facebook page, and then Paul over at Sabotage printed me a couple of copies of them. So I've had them for ages and I wanted to use them, so this is the chance to do that. However, in the actual the game itself, in the original scenario, we have actually two platoons of Germans attacking against a couple of platoons of British defending. So what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting it down to one platoon of each. So I've just kind of jigged this about a little bit and just taken some bits and pieces from this scenario, but the basics of the scenario is pretty similar. So with that introduction done, what I'll do is I'll show you the forces that are involved, I'll show you the table, we'll do the patrol phase, and we'll just get on with this game, shall we? Okay, so these are my two opposing forces. So we've got the German Marines over here. That's these guys here. This is basically a platoon. This is led by senior leader and another senior leader. They've got two of those. Then they have four sections. These are made up of 8 men. Half of these are going to be bombers, so 4 bombers in each of these 4 sections. So 4 rifles, 4 bombers, and these are each led by a junior leader. Then they also have an MG 0815 as well, which has a 6-man crew with it and a leader as well on top of that. So reasonable bit of firepower there. And then also over here we've got the 75mm anti-aircraft gun. This is Lieutenant Fritz Nagel himself. He's a senior leader, level 3, and he has 5 crew with this, one of which is the driver. The rest are going to be using the gun. Then the British over here, we've got a senior leader, and he is in command of the MMG here, which is what the Germans are wanting to take out, and also 2 LMG teams of 2 men each. These are going to have to start somewhere in the cottage that is actually being defended. That's the only stipulation, whatever happens. So they're going to have a jumping off point in that cottage itself, and that will be an extra one for the British. Then they are also supported by an 8-man rifle team as well over here, so but they don't have to start in the cottage, so they can appear elsewhere. Some of these men can also be used as LMG crew if needs be. But obviously they've got to be with them, and the senior leader has to swap them over onto that team as well. They can't use the HMG, they can only use the MMG, they can only use the LMGs. And then in support we also have basically half a platoon, or a diminished platoon, and this is made up of a senior leader along with 2 rifle teams of 2 rifle sections, should I say, each of 8 men, and then also a rifle grenadier team, which is made up of 2 rifle grenadiers each with 2 crew in them. So a bit of a mix really. It's not a full platoon for either side, or well, it's a bit more of a full platoon for the Germans, but it's a bit of a mixed one really, just to demonstrate the fighting at this time, the mix of men that were there. So I'll show you the table and explain how the Germans can win this if they can. So here we are on the edge of Albert in spring of 1918. So we've got the German patrol markers are starting on this road. There's 4 of them and they've got to start on that road. The the flak gun will only be allowed to come on one of the road edges here. There's 3 of them actually on the German edge. Meanwhile, the lockkeeper's cottage that the Germans are trying to negate is here, and this is where one of the British jumping off points will start, so it's going to be in that cottage itself. And also this is where the MMG and their LMGs, this is the only place that they can deploy is in there as well. Meanwhile, the British combat patrols are going to be over here. Patrol markers are over here on the back end. They have 3 of them by the factory. The factory is important because the Germans have to capture the factory and also these couple of buildings, or at least clear them for a major victory. If they just destroy the machine gun in here, it's a minor victory. They are trying to push on as fast as possible into Albert itself. So that's pretty much it really. That's the setup of the table. I've already rolled for their force morales, and the Germans are on 9, so they're obviously a little bit tired. The British a little buoyed up, and they're on 10. So what I'll do is I'll play out the patrol phase, and then we will see where their jumping off points come in. Right, okay, let's have a quick look at where our jumping off points are. So we've got a German one down here in the trees, quite far forward, and flanking or attempting to flank the cottage. They also have another one over here in the little allotment in the centre, and then their third and final one is in that back corner there amongst those trees. Might not see much action, that one. The British, as I say, we've already got the cottage jumping off points anyway, but they've got one in these trees here on their right flank, and then they have 2 just behind the wall in the factory itself, so covering that middle and left flank, and that's really it. Right, so the British are probably not likely to do much in this turn, but it might build them up some chain of command points at least. Let's just see. Well, yes, there we go. We've got a 5 straight away, so that gives them 1 chain of command point. And we've got a 1, 2 and a 3, and then also a 6. 6 does nothing on its own. The British are going to wait until the Germans have shown their hand, I think. That's the sensible thing to do at this point. So just going to stay off the table. So over to the Germans then. So they have got a chain of command points, so that gives them a 1. They then have a 1, a 2 and 2 3s as well, so that's a reasonably good number actually, I think, straight away. So they might start putting stuff on the table. Right, the Germans have gone for some rapid deployment basically, so they brought out their LMG section with the MG08-15, and that has then, using a 3 for their junior leader, that has also put down covering fire on the front of that building. So anything firing out of that is going to have a -1 from its turn onwards. Then over here we've also put out a section of rifles, and these are in the cabbage patch, so they're in light cover, and they are on overwatch as well, watching that cottage. And then meanwhile they've also used their last 3 to bring out Fritz himself. Fritz Nagel is here with his 75mm anti-aircraft gun, and that has just appeared on the table there as well. So I've only put a couple of crew on there, but the rest of them are on the vehicle. So that's where the Germans are at. Will the British respond in kind? Let's see. Right, so the Brits, if they fire out to that cottage at the moment, they're firing with a -1, and they will get some fire back as well. So well, I don't know. See what happens with them. We've got a 3. We've got a 1, a 1, a 2 and a 2. A bit of a mix of things there. I don't know if it's worthwhile just waiting it out and waiting for the fire to die down before reacting to anything. So yeah, I think they're just going to wait. They're just going to wait it out. They obviously don't want the Germans to get too close to them, because that will cut down that jumping off point and then stop them deploying into that cottage. But let's just see what the Germans do to that. Well, they've got a double phase. They've got a 5 as well. Takes them up to a 2 on their chain of command points. And they've got a 3 and a 4. 3 and a 4 is pretty useful. Very useful, in fact, actually. So I think, let me just have a quick think about this and what they're going to do with those 2 numbers. Okay, knowing that they've got that double phase, the Germans have decided to bring out their Feldwebel Heineken. He has joined that section there and then pushed them forward. They were going to try to cross that fence, but they only moved forward 4 inches, so they're up at the edge of their fence at least. And then meanwhile we use a 3 with Fritz Nagel himself and just moved forward the vehicle. I forgot to mention that if the vehicle goes off-road, any doubles will bog it down. Otherwise it's fine on the cobbled roads, but it is susceptible to getting stuck in the mud. Right, Germans' next phase. Let's have a look. Oh, double 6, another phase. So we got a 1, a 2 and a 2. So that's quite interesting. It's pretty useful, I think, for what they want to do at this point. Alright, it wasn't exactly the role that they needed, but the Germans have used the 2 and the 1 to turn it into a 3 to bring forward the 75mm gun, just to try to get into a position to be able to fire at that house. And then meanwhile they use the 2 to bring forward that section. They've hopped the fence, so they are now currently in the open. They're not really in light cover because the machine gun will be able to shoot through those. There's only 2 of them that are actually in light cover, so I'm not going to count them as being in light cover, so they are actually in the open. They do get another phase though, and they are slowly moving towards that British jumping off point, which is what they're wanting to do. Well, let's see if they can keep up the momentum. What we got here? Okay, they lost the phase, but they've got a 2 and 3 3s, so that is reasonably useful for, once again, for what they want to do. Alright, using a combination of fire and manoeuvre, the Germans have moved up a little closer to the position itself. So what they've done is they brought forward the anti-aircraft gun, so that is now in a position that it can actually fire at the cottage. They've also pushed forward these guys who are trying to shut down the jumping off point, but they're just over 4 inches away from it. They're about 6, 7, 8 inches away or so, so they can't actually shut it down. But meanwhile they used the 3 and the LMG over here put down covering fire, so this will last into the British next turn. They deployed another section here, put them on overwatch as well to look over that cottage just in case anything does appear, and then finally brought out another section, put these on tactical in the cabbage patch. So currently the only thing they've got off the table is their 4th section and also their overall commander as well, their senior leader. But it's now back to the British, and who knows, maybe we might get some machine gun fire. Let's get those dice rolling for the Brits. Okay, so they've got a double phase. They've got a 5 chain of command points. They've also got a 4, which is a senior leader, and a 1, which is a team, which is actually exactly what they need at this point, I think. Okay, so the British have used their 1 to produce the MMG team in the cottage itself. So that is going to fire down, obviously, at these fellas down here. They are in the open. They are currently under covering fire though, so they are going to take a -1 to hit. They're close range, so it would normally be 4 up, but it's not. It becomes a 5 up. Then the Germans over here on Overwatch are going to return fire at the British over there. So let's see what happens. Maybe they can make a mess of these Germans as they're coming in. Let's have a look. We've got so we're hitting on 5s and 6s because of that covering fire. Covering fire will disappear at the end of their phase, so they're only under it for this one phase, but it might be enough. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So just to show you they've actually, you know, basically they would have hit with 50% of those if they weren't under covering fire. So they've actually only hit with 3, which is about right actually, because the 2 4s don't count. So 3 hits on these Germans. They are in the open, so 5 6s are kills, 3 4 is shock. Let's have a look. So we got 1 kill, 1 shock. There is a junior and a senior leader both in there as well, so there's the shock on them. Let's just see if that 1 kill is on either of those. Wonder it is. Yes, it is. 1 to 3 it's a junior, 4 to 6 a senior. It is 4, it's a senior leader. So what has happened to this fella? 6, he is lightly wounded, but that is still a bad thing's happened for the Germans first of all. So we got senior leader lightly wounded, or just wounded. Let's see what happens. That's a 5. That's 2 points straight away off the Germans' force morale. That brings them down to 7. Ooh, not good. I'll just mark him up with a wound in a minute. But then first of all we're getting the Germans over here. These are going to be firing back now. These are the ones on Overwatch. There is 8 of them. There's 9 in fact actually, because there is their junior leader in there. These are on Overwatch. They're going to be hitting on 4s up because they are firing at close range with rifles though, but these are in heavy cover, so I don't think it's going to do much damage, but may as well try. Let's have a look. We're hitting on 4s up. 1 2 3 4 5 6. That's 6 hits on that team, and they are now killing on a 6 and shocking on a 5. So we've got just 2 shock, no kills. Well, let's see if the Brits can do any better than that. Well, we've got 2 5s, that gives them a chain of command points. 2 chain of command points, that takes them up to 4, which is good. Then they've also got a 1, a 3 and a 4, so reasonably useful. So that's going to be a team, a junior leader and also a senior leader if they want. Well, I forgot that the British don't actually have any junior leaders, but they can fire with using that 1 with the team firing down on these fellas here. So this time they're firing with full effect, so they are going to see what happens with that. So look, 4s up this time. We've got 1 2 3 4 5 6 hits, because of course they've taken 1 dice off for that shock, so that's 6 hits on these guys in the open. So 5s and 6s are kills, 3 4 is shock. So we've got 3 kills there and also 1 shock. I'll just put that shock on them. Those 3 kills, 1 of them is going to be at least 1 rifleman. Then we've also got potentially hitting a couple of those senior leader or junior leaders. So let's have a look. Yes, it's hit 1 of them. At least 1 of them has, so that's another rifleman off. And it's 1 to 3 junior, 4 to 6 senior. 1 to 3, it is the junior leader this time. What has happened to that fella? 1, he's been killed outright, so that's a bad thing's happen as well for the Germans. So let's roll for that. That is a 5 on a junior leader killed. That is 2 more points off them. God, they're straight down to 5 now. God, they are wavering at this point. It's not good for them. Okie dokie, over to the Germans. Let's just see what they get for their dice. This could go anyway at this point, I think. Right, oh well, they're retaining the phase. That is a blessed relief. So we've got a 1, a 3 and a 4. That is reasonably useful. It means they can probably reduce some shock and get some of those units moving forward, and even blast that beleaguered MMG in the cottage, I think. Okay, so I've used the 4 for the senior leader over here to reduce the 2 shock. He's only got 2 activations because he's wounded, so they've reduced the 2 shock down to 0 to get rid of it. But then they're just sitting where they are because we've got that double phase for the Germans. Then they're using their 3 for Fritz Nagel to fire up the cannon. It can't fire and move, so it hasn't moved this turn, but it is firing here, close range, hitting on 4s up. It's got a HE of 6. It reduces cover by 1. They're in heavy cover, so it will reduce it down to light cover. So we've hit 1, 2, 3, 4, just above the odds there. So that's 4 hits on those Brits. They are now in light cover. 6 is a kill, 4, 5 is shock. So we've got 1 kill, 2 shock. Well, let's see if the Germans can keep up the there you go, there's another double phase. So we've got a 5 as well, that gives them another 3 on theirs, and then we've also got a 3 and a 4, so reasonably useful once again for at least lamping that MMG in the cottage. Right, well, they might be doing all right at the moment, but remember, clearing the cottage is not the main thing. It's just one of the things they've got to do before they move on. But they are doing okay. So let's see. We're firing with the 75mm gun first. So 4's up. That is 3 hits. So that is dead on the odds. Same again. 4, 5 is shock. 6 is a kill on those guys in there. That's 3 more shock. They have 4 men and 7 shock, so they are currently pinned. And the last thing the Germans have done on this phase is they've just moved this unit up. They used 3 dice, but they took 1 shock off because they did it with a junior leader on a 3, so they basically just moved forward up to this hedge. They are just over 4 inches away from the machine gun at this point, so they've not gone into close combat, and also they haven't shut down the jump off point that's in that house just yet. Well, despite the initial setbacks, they are keeping up a reasonably good momentum at this point. So let's see what we get this time. We've got 2 5s and 2 chain of command points, takes them up to 5. A 6 does nothing, and then a 2 and a 4. So that's a junior, a section, and also a senior leader. Okay, so the Germans are using their 2 and their 4 to conduct a close assault on the cottage. First of all, they're using the 2 to hop the hedge and get into close combat with the MMG there. Then they're using the 4 to use a hand grenade and attack before they go in against the other part of the cottage here as well, against that MMG. So then this will also close down that jumping off point, which is not good for the British if that's the case, if they survive. So we're going to do the hand grenade and attack first, and then we'll go into the close combat. So first of all, we rolled 1d6 but -2 because we are attacking into hard cover. And we see what we get. Let's have a look. We've got a 5 -2 is a 3. That is 4 grenades of hit. So there are 8 hits straight away on that on the British in their hard target there. So we're hitting those Brits. They are in hard cover. So it's 6 is a kill. 4, 5 is shot, light cover because it's enclosed space for a grenade. So not a huge amount there, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shock on them. Actually, I think that's going to break them before they even get in there anyway. So they're already on 7, so that takes them up to 11, which is, yes, that's broken them. So even though they piled in, so they are broken, so that's going to be a 2d6 plus 6-inch runaway for the Brits. So let's see how far away they run. 9 plus 6 is 15 inches. I don't think that's enough to get them off the table. It's not off the table, but they are well away from where they are at the moment, so I'll just move those in a second. So that is a bad thing's happened straight away for the British. There's no close combat because they've already cleared the space with the hand grenade and attack, but they have also now shut down that jumping off point. So the team has broken, so there's a bad thing's happened for it. Let's just see what that is. A 4, that is 1 point off. Well, that wasn't a great turn for the Brits, was it? Let's just see what they get from the next one. They do retain the phase. 5 gives them a chain of command point, and a 1 and a 3. 3 is no use to them, but the 1 and the 3 can be combined to make a 4, which is a senior leader, which, to be honest, is not a huge amount of use to them. They can bring on a team though, but they can't bring it on in that cottage. So using that 1, they brought on their team of rifle grenadiers. So it's basically two rifle grenadiers. They're firing at these Germans over here because these are in the open. They can't see them, but they are hitting on a 5 or a 6 because of that. And they're only firing with 2 dice first of all because it's a ranging shot. So let's see, 4 and a 1, that's 2 misses for them. They do retain the phase though. So let's see, and they retain the phase and end the turn as well. So that removes a jumping off point for them, for the Germans at the end of this phase. And again, they've got a 4 and a 1, so that's a senior leader and another team. So they're going to use that 1 to fire once again from behind the factory walls at these guys. This time now it's on 4. It's going to spread the fire across both of those teams, or those sections actually. So let's just see, we're hitting on 5s up, and we have got 1 hit. So we'll put it on the one that is closest. So 4, 5 is 3, 4 is shock, 5, 6 is a kill. Nothing, no effect. So it's the end of the phase, end of the turn. So this jumping off point will disappear for the British, so that is a bad thing's happened for them. It's going to cut down what they can do. 6 takes off 2 points of the British force morale, drops them down to 7. Not good, not good at all. But now we're back to the British next turn. So a 6 on its own, they don't retain the phase. This time they've got a 2, 2 3s and a 4, so that's a couple of junior leaders which they don't have, a senior leader, but also a 2 which is a section, which is very useful actually, I think, at this point. So using that 2, they've actually deployed a section in the top of the factory. I'm allowing them to fire over the walls because they are a second floor up. They can't hit the guys over here because they can't see them pretty much, but they can fire at Fritz Nagel and his gun down there. So they're hitting on 5s up because of the range. It's over 18 inch. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 4 hits, so that's actually above the odds. So they don't have a gun shield, so they are actually in the open, so 5, 6 is a kill. Let's have a look, that is 2 kills and also 2 shock on that gun. Are either of those kills on Fritz? 1 or 2 it is. No, 3 it isn't, so it's just 2 of his crew, but they've taken a bit of a battering, poor lads. Right, Germans up again. So another 5 chain of command dice for them, and they've got 2, 2 and a 3. Well, 3 2s and a 3. Reasonably useful actually, I think, for what they probably want to do. Right, let me quickly show you what has happened. Okay, so Fritz taking those hits, basically booted it, got his driver to turn around and withdraw because they are taking fire in the open. Not very good. Meanwhile, the Germans used a 2, they got through the building and they're into the courtyard now, or some of them are anyway, and they also used another 2 as well to move this section over the road and into the light cover of these woods over here, trying to push up on these buildings, if nothing else. And then also they used their chain of command dice to drag forward this jumping off point. You can see here they placed that behind the cottage, and then they also then use their final 2 to deploy another section over here, and these have gone on onto tactical. So they are now pushing forward. Everybody is on the table apart from their senior leader, who may appear in their next phase, but it's over to the British. Let's see what they get. Right, so let's see what the Brits get. 6 does nothing on its own, 2 4s, a 1 and a 2. So they've got a team, a section and 2 senior leaders potentially. Right, the British are trying to maximise their firepower using a 1 with the team first of all firing at these over here. So this is the rifle grenadiers, hitting on 5s and 6s because they're out of line of sight, and they're only rolling 2 dice because it's a new target. So 3 and a 4, 3 and a 2 is no hits. So then they're going to fire with the ones in the windows of the factory, and they are going to fire down again. These ones in tactical, they're in light cover, becomes hard cover because they are tactical, and they are also in light cover in the behind the fences. So these are hitting on a 4 up, so 1, only 2 hits on those Germans there. God, the British cannot get the dice today, can they? So the Germans are in heavy cover, 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. So it is a kill. He's on the junior leader though. 1 it is, 5 no it isn't, so it's one of the rifles, and no shock. Right, Germans phase. They're returning that phase again. 2 5s is also 2 chain of command points, takes them up to 2, and then a 3 is a junior leader, so pretty useful actually, I think. Just to quickly show you what's happened, the Germans have used their junior leader to get this section forward. They jumped the fence, I rolled a double 6, so they basically moved forward 6 inches. On the other side you take one off for crossing a small fence, so they're now trying to get around the corner of that factory if they can, so they've got that double phase. So their next phase brings them a 5, a chain of command points, so that takes them up to 3. Then we've got a 1, a 2, a 3 and a 4, so that's a nice spread. I think 1 2 3 4 5. It's a TED. Okay, so a couple of things have happened. I had forgotten that the MMG crew were broken, so they should have been taken off the table when the turn ended. I've taken them off now. It was no effect to the game. Don't abuse me in the comments. And we've got these guys over here. They're firing. What I've done is brought on senior leader. He has also got the other section over here to move forward. They are now up against this little patch of industrial area, but they've also as well advanced the other section up to the British jumping off point, so they've closed that one down. And they're not removed it yet, but they have closed it down. And then they're going to get these guys over here, the senior leader getting these guys over here to fire. Meanwhile, Fritz, over just off the camera, has reduced shock on his crew, and he is now bringing his gun back up. What I'm thinking of doing is I'll probably try and put a hole in one of these walls for the factory to try and get in that way. Otherwise, they can get in through the entrance there. So let's see, we're firing first of all. 4's up to hit. And we've got 1, 2 hits on those guys in the factory walls. They are in hard cover. 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. So 6, that is a kill. There's no junior leader or senior leader in there, so it's just a kill on one of the rifles. Okie doke. Let's see if the Brits can do anything at this point. Let's have a look. They keep and retain the phase and end the turn as well, so that's not good for them, because that's another loss of another jumping off point at the end of this phase. But they got 5 chain of command point, gives them a full chain of command dice, and a 1 is a team. Yeah, swings and roundabouts there, I think. Okay, first up, all they can really do is fire with those rifle grenadiers, and they're going to fire with these ones here in the cottage, hitting on 5s and 6s. No hits. They can't do anything else for this phase. They do retain the phase, but they're going to lose this jumping off point because that's within 4 inches of the Germans. They now do a bad things happen for that. So that's the loss of a jump off point. So 6 minus 2 points, so that brings them down to 5 on their force morale. Right, so they're not losing any command dice just yet. Let's see, they've got 6, does bugger all. They've got a 1, a 2, 2 1s, pretty good spread there, 2 1s, 2 and a 3, so they might get their last section out maybe. Okay, this is a bit of what we call desperate times. We've got the British senior leader out, and he is now directing the fire of the guys in the factory down to these fellas down here again, and then also getting the rifle grenadiers also to fire at the guys in the factory, guys in the cottage once again. Meanwhile, we then deployed their second section over here, and they have basically gone straight into close combat with these Germans up against this factory wall. It's a bit of a gamble, and I don't like doing it when the enemy are fresh, but it might just work. They might pull it off, but we'll see. So let's start anyway. Rifle grenadiers, they've already fired at this target once, so this has now full fire effect, hitting on 5s and 6s because they can't see the target. Not a single hit. God, these have been terrible. I think they've hit once. Then the rifles, they are hitting on 7 dice because 1 man has lost, so these are hitting on 4s up. They're just within close range, so we've got 1, 2, 3 hits for those lads. So these guys are actually in hard cover because they're behind those walls. So 6 is a kill, 5 is shock, and 4, 4 and a 2, no effect whatsoever. Absolutely desultory firing. Right, I'll work out what's happening with the close combat over there, and we'll turn to that next. So I've totted up the dice. I'm counting the Germans as hitting the rear. So they basically half their dice. They've ended up with 7. The British have basically got 8. So there's very little difference in this. So we're looking at 5s and 6s to kill, with a 6 also causing shock. So let's see what we get. So the Brits have killed 1 man. The Germans have killed 2 men, and also caused a shock on those British. There are no senior leaders in there, so I'll take those 2 off. There is 1 for the Germans. I'm just going to do the British first of all, so they've taken those off, and then also 1 shock. So the Germans have taken 1 kill. Is that 1 kill on one of their junior leader? If it is a 5, no it isn't, so it's just one of their men. The British were defeated by 1. They are thrown back 6 inches facing the enemy. If they were aggressive or stubborn, they'd fight in defence, they'd ignore and they'd fight again, but they don't, so they are thrown back away from those Germans. So the Germans got away with that pretty well, I think. Let's see what the Germans get on their turn. So this is pretty good for them. So they've got 5, 1 chain of command point, takes them up to 4, and 3 3s and a 4, so that is a really good spread for what they need, I think. Well, before anything happens, the British are using their chain of command dice to interrupt, and they're going to fire with this section over here against the Germans up against the factory wall. So let's just see what happens. Hitting on 4s up because the Germans are probably going to attack them. But let's see. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. These guys are in the open, so that's 4 hits on them. 5, 6 is a kill, 3, 4 is shock. So that's 1 kill, 1 shock. Is it on the junior leader? A 1 it is. No, it isn't. So it's just another rifleman, and then also 1 kill, 1 shock as well. Okay, before anything else happens, we're going to get the senior leader over here. He's instructing these to fire at the guys in the factory windows. He's also got this section as well to move forward, and they are just moving around the corner of that building there. So we're firing first of all with the rifles up here. These are hitting on 4s up. They've hit with 1, 2, 3. So 3 hits, and they're in hard cover. 6 is the kill, 5 is shock. So just 1 kill on there. Is it on that senior leader though? A 1, and it is. No, it isn't, so it's another British rifleman in the factory has been hit. Right, so now we're going to use a 3 over here. This guy is not reducing shock. What he's going to do is going to charge them into close combat using hand grenades, so he's not reducing the shock. So they are in light cover. So we roll a d6 minus 1 to see how many grenades hit. 5 becomes a 4. 4 is 2 hits. So that's going to be 4 hits on those Brits straight away. So let's just roll for those. So they're in the open. So 5, 6 is kill, 3, 4 is shock. So they have, oh, they've killed 3 of them, but caused no shock. So 3 of those Brits are already dead. And then they are going to now try and pile into close combat with them. So let's see how far they get. And they are going for 2d6. No, they go 3d6 because it's hand grenades, isn't it? So 5 plus 5 is 10 inches. Double check that, but yes, they are definitely in. So I'll just move those minus 2 inches as well. So I'll just move those in and we'll do that close combat. Okay, I've totted everything up. The Germans have got 10 against the British 8 because the British are in light cover, but the Germans have got bombers, and the Germans also move 3d6 to get into contact with them. So let's see, 5s and 6s are those kills. So we've got for the Germans here 1, 2, 3, that's enough. That wipes out the British. The Germans though have lost 1, 2. That's all I can see in there. So the Germans have lost 2, the British have lost 3. So the Germans have won and the British are wiped out. So that's a bad thing's happened for the British. It's just a section destroyed. Let's have a look. A 4 on section wiped out is 2 points off the Brits. That brings them down to 3 on their force morale. So they're now losing command dice. The Germans, let's test to see if the one of those hits is on their junior leader or not. 5, no it isn't. So it's just on 2 of the rifles. So they're off. And so are those Brits. Right, let's just have a quick sit rep as we are. So what we've done is use another 3 for the junior leader to bring forward that team of the LMG. So they're just moving forward up to that hedge if they can. We've got our senior leader and other senior leader, wounded senior leader, in the cottage itself, pushing forward these chaps here to get round the corner, hopefully, of the factory. Meanwhile, the British have still got their unit in the factory there, holding on, and the rifle grenadiers as well down there. The Germans also used their other 3 to bring forward Fritz Nagel with his cannon, so that is now in a position where it might be able to start firing at that building and taking out some more. And then finally, as you just saw, there was that two close assaults from the Brits into the Germans there, and then the Germans back into the Brits where they wiped them out. The Germans are also on another chain of another jumping off point there for the British. So if the turn ends, it's a loss of another jumping off point for the Brits, so that will not be good for them. And they are currently only on 3 force morale anyway. So the Germans don't have enough chain of command points to actually end the turn and get rid of that other jumping off point, but the British are now down to 3 on their command dice. So let's just see what they've got from that. So they've got 1 chain of command point, a 6 does nothing on its own, and a 1 is a team. So that's going to be the rifle grenadiers again, I think. So it's the British rifle grenadiers over there. They are firing with 4 dice at the same target they fired at before. These guys are hitting on 5s up. Let's see, we've got 2 hits this time. Bloody hell, that's a first. So the rifle grenadiers have actually hit. So 2 hits, and they are hitting on, they are in hard cover, becomes light cover because they reduce cover. So kill is a 6, 4, 5 shock. So 2 shock, and that's all they've done. Okay, so back to the Germans. They've got 2 chain of command points, takes them up to 5, up to 6. They're going to spend that, end the turn, capture that jumping off point. So that's going to whack the British. So that's and the 6 on its own does nothing, but they have a 3 and a 2 as well. So that is useful again for what they probably want to be doing. Right, first things first, because it's the end of the turn, or they're ending the turn, they've moved, they just moved that unit onto the jumping off point to make sure it's shut down. Then they're using a 3 for Fritz to fire out the guys in the factory. So let's see what happens with that. We're hitting on 4s up. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits on those fellas, and this is reducing cover, so they're hitting now in light cover. So 6 is the kill, 4, 5 is a shock. So that's 2 kills and 1 shock. Are either of those kills on that senior leader? Yes, it is. What has happened to him? A 3, he is knocked out till the end of the turn, so that's a senior leader wounded, and also there's another guy in there killed. I'll take another one off there. And they are also then going to lose that jumping off point, so that ends the Germans' phase. So we're going to do a couple of bad things happens for the British. So he jumps straight back up again, so but we still have to do the bad things happen for him being wounded. So senior leader wounded, we've got a 5. He's 2 points off. That drops then down to 1. They have lost a jumping off point as well, so this I think was going to end the game anyway, but let's just see. Yes, the minimum they can get is 1, so let's just see how badly they lose it by. A 2, they only lose 1 point, but that drops their force morale to 0. Game over. The British start to retreat and pull away, and the Germans have won a minor victory. Well, let's take a look at the table at the end of the game. So the British here, the senior leader had been hit, but as I say, he jumped straight back up again, but it was still a junior leader wounded, so they were taking some hits, those guys in the factory there, unfortunately for them. Meanwhile, over here, the fellas had taken that jumping off point and removed it from the table, which is basically what did for them, isn't it? Meanwhile, the Germans had also brought up their 75mm anti-aircraft gun once again to start firing at that factory and taking out the British in there anyway, so it wasn't going to last too long, was it? Meanwhile, we got these chaps. This is as far as they got. They got to the cottage and captured it, and they were pushing forward with their LMG team, who are just behind them here, and then also the other section who didn't really move. Probably shouldn't have really deployed them, to be honest. I should have waited until I got this jumping off point further forward. Not that it really mattered, but probably a little bit premature on that case. But the British held pretty well, and because the Germans didn't actually clear the 3 buildings at the back here, they've cleared 2 of them, arguably, because there's no British in these 2, but they didn't clear the factory. Therefore, it's not a major victory, it's a minor victory for the Germans, but very bloody and great game. That very exciting. It could have gone either way, I think, from the start. I don't know if the British were too constricted by having that jumping off point, and I don't know if I should have really brought on some of the teams earlier on to get that basically manned up ready, and just rather than letting the Germans move forward under no fire at all. But you know, you live and learn. Hindsight is 20/20 vision. Right, well, I do hope you've enjoyed that game of Chain of Command Great War. I certainly have. I thought that was quite exciting, and I hope you've done so too. If you have done, please do subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel before. Also, do check out the Patreon and also channel memberships. You'll get videos access ad-free and also early access if that takes your fancy. And I will see you in the next Storm of Steel video.